Have you ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth quietly while everyone else is chasing the next big opportunity? Why are there people who never show off expensive cars, luxury watches, or giant homes, yet somehow reach retirement with far less financial stress? And what if one of the biggest reasons has nothing to do with earning more money? Imagine two people who both begin their careers at 25, they earn similar salaries, they receive similar raises, they live through the same economy. 40 years later, one is financially secure, the other is still worried about money. Most people assume the difference must have been investing or luck or a much higher income, but often it was none of those. It was the small decisions nobody noticed, the habits that never looked exciting, the choices that never impressed anyone, and that's exactly why they worked. For decades, the world has been fascinated by Japan. People admire its technology, its discipline, its culture, its long-term thinking, but one lesson rarely gets talked about. Many ordinary Japanese families and individuals tend to follow money habits that quietly build financial security over time. Not every household lives this way, of course, but these patterns show up often enough to offer valuable insight, not through risky investments, not through chasing the newest trend, and not by trying to look rich. Instead, they focus on something much more powerful. They build wealth that doesn't need attention. Wealth that grows quietly while everyone else is busy trying to look successful. The surprising part is that many of these habits feel almost too simple. In fact, some of them might even seem old-fashioned at first. But by the end of this video, you'll understand why these quiet habits have helped many people build lasting financial stability. And you may discover that the biggest obstacle to becoming wealthy isn't a lack of money. It's believing that wealth has to be loud for it to be real. So why don't we hear more about these habits? Because they're not designed to impress anyone. And that's exactly what makes them so effective. In many parts of the world, wealth is expected to be visible. A bigger house, a newer car, luxury brands, the latest gadgets. People often assume that if someone has money, they should look like they have money. But in Japan, many financially successful people think very differently. There's a saying that the loudest person in the room is rarely the wisest. The same idea often applies to money. The people who build lasting wealth usually aren't trying to prove they're wealthy, they're trying to protect it. That's a completely different mindset. Think about two neighbors. The first spends every raise making life look more successful. The second quietly saves part of every raise before changing anything else. From the outside, the first neighbor appears to be winning. The second hardly gets noticed. 5 years later, they still look similar. 10 years later, the difference becomes obvious. One has built a lifestyle, the other has built financial security. That's because quiet wealth grows in places that most people never look: inside savings, inside patience, inside decisions that don't receive applause. And here's what makes this so surprising. Many people spend years learning how to earn more money. Very few spend the same amount of time learning how to keep it. A common approach among many Japanese households starts with a simple belief: building wealth isn't a performance, it's a private habit. Once you understand that, something begins to change. You stop asking, how can I look more successful? And start asking, how can I become more secure? That single shift in thinking lays the foundation for every habit we're about to explore. And the very first one might be the simplest of them all, yet it's also the one most people overlook. The first Japanese money habit isn't about investing. It isn't about earning more. And it isn't about finding the perfect financial strategy. It's about making one quiet decision before anyone else notices. Live below your means even when you don't have to. At first, that sounds almost too simple. Most people hear that advice and think, of course. Then they receive a raise, a bonus, or a promotion. Without realizing it, their lifestyle grows right alongside their income. The bigger paycheck disappears almost as quickly as it arrives. In Japan, many families take a different approach. When income increases, they don't immediately increase spending, they increase stability. Part of the extra money goes towards savings, part strengthens their financial cushion. Only then do they think about spending more. That one habit may not look exciting, but over 20 or 30 years, it quietly changes everything. Imagine two friends who each receive a $10,000 raise. One upgrades the car, moves into a larger home, and adds a few new monthly expenses. The other keeps living much the same way and saves most of the increase. A year later, they seem equally successful. 5 years later, one owns nicer things, the other owns more freedom. That's the difference. Most people use raises to improve their lifestyle. Quietly wealthy people often use raises to improve their future. They understand something many people miss. Every dollar you don't need to spend today becomes a dollar that can protect your tomorrow. That's why the goal isn't to look richer every year. The goal is to become stronger every year. Because real wealth isn't built by spending every increase in income, it's built by quietly creating a gap between what you earn and what you need. That simple gap becomes the foundation for the next Japanese habit, a habit that completely changes the way people think about everyday spending. The second Japanese money habit is something most people rarely think about. They treat every purchase as a long-term commitment, not just a one-time expense. Before buying something, many people ask a simple question: will this still improve my life a year from now? It's a surprisingly powerful filter, because the excitement of buying something usually lasts a few days. The monthly payment can last for years. That's a lesson many people learn too late. Imagine buying a new car. Most people focus on the price, but that's only the beginning. There's insurance, maintenance, repairs, fuel, registration. Every purchase quietly creates future obligations. Japanese families often think beyond today's excitement. They think about tomorrow's responsibility. That's why many of them avoid buying things simply because they can afford them. Instead, they ask whether the purchase will make life easier or more expensive to maintain. It's a small shift in thinking, but over time, it saves an incredible amount of money. More importantly, it protects something even more valuable: peace of mind, because financial stress rarely comes from one big purchase. It usually comes from dozens of small commitments made over many years. Each one feels affordable on its own. Together, they quietly limit your freedom. That's why quietly wealthy people don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "Will I still be happy paying for this next year?" That single question prevents countless unnecessary expenses, and it creates something most people never realize they're losing: financial breathing room. Once you start protecting that breathing room, money begins working differently. Instead of supporting more obligations, it starts creating more choices. And that's exactly what the next Japanese habit is designed to do. The third Japanese money habit has very little to do with money itself. It has everything to do with patience. In many cultures, people are encouraged to buy first and figure things out later. If you really want it, just get it. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Those messages are everywhere. The Japanese approach is often very different. Instead of buying immediately, many people give themselves time. If they want something expensive, they don't rush. They wait. A few days, a few weeks, sometimes even longer. Why? Because time separates real needs from temporary emotions. Think about the last thing you wanted badly. Maybe it was a new phone, a larger TV, a piece of furniture at the time. It probably felt important. But if someone had asked you to wait 30 days, would you still have wanted it just as much? Sometimes the answer is yes. But surprisingly often, it's no. The excitement fades, the urgency disappears, and the money stays in your pocket. This simple habit protects people from one of the biggest enemies of wealth: impulse. Most financial mistakes aren't carefully planned. They're emotional. They happen in moments of excitement, stress, boredom, or comparison. That's why quietly wealthy people don't trust every impulse they feel. They give themselves space to think. That space often saves them thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Here's the surprising part. The goal isn't to stop enjoying life. It's to make sure you're buying things because they improve your life, not because they temporarily improve your mood. That one habit leads to better decisions, fewer regrets, and more money available for the things that truly matter. Because sometimes the smartest financial decision isn't deciding what to buy, it's deciding to wait. And the next Japanese habit takes that same kind of patience to an entirely different level. The fourth Japanese money habit is one of the hardest for many people to practice. They don't try to look wealthy at first. That may not sound like a money habit, but it changes almost every financial decision a person makes. Imagine two coworkers arriving at the office on a Monday morning. One pulls into the parking lot in a brand new luxury SUV. The other arrives in a reliable 10-year-old car. People notice. They assume the first person is doing better financially, more successful, more secure, but 10 years later, something interesting happens. The person with the older car quietly retires first. No big announcement, no flashy lifestyle, just freedom. That's the difference between looking wealthy and becoming wealthy. In many places, success is expected to be visible. A luxury car, designer clothes, a larger house, the latest phone. Without realizing it, people begin buying things not because they need them, but because those things send a message. The Japanese approach is often much quieter. Many financially comfortable people choose quality over attention. They buy things that last. They take care of what they own, and they rarely feel the need to prove their successful through their possessions. That's a powerful advantage. Because the moment you stop trying to impress strangers, you stop paying for their approval. Think about those two coworkers again. One spends heavily to look successful, the other quietly invests in long-term security. At first glance, the first person appears wealthier. Years later, the second person often is. That's because appearances can be expensive. Real wealth doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need compliments. It doesn't need validation. It simply grows year after year without asking anyone to notice. This doesn't mean you should never enjoy nice things. It means your purchases should reflect your values, not your need to impress. That's a completely different mindset. It's one of the biggest reasons quietly wealthy people stay wealthy, because every dollar spent trying to look rich is a dollar that can no longer build your future. The people who build lasting wealth understand something many others never do. The goal isn't to own things that attract attention. The goal is to own a financial life that brings peace of mind. That quiet confidence leads directly to the next Japanese habit, one that has been passed down through generations and quietly shapes the way many families think about money. The fifth Japanese money habit isn't about what you buy, it's about how you prepare. Many Japanese families don't wait for problems before thinking about money. They prepare while life is still going well. That may sound obvious, but it's surprisingly uncommon. Most people build an emergency fund after something goes wrong, after losing a job, after a major repair, after an unexpected medical bill. By then, the stress has already arrived. The Japanese mindset is different. Preparation isn't driven by fear. It's driven by respect for uncertainty, because life is unpredictable. No one knows when the economy will slow down, when a family emergency will happen, or when an unexpected expense will appear. Instead of hoping those moments never come, many quietly prepare for them, little by little, month after month, year after year. That's why they don't see savings as money that's doing nothing. They see it as money buying peace of mind, buying time, buying options. Now imagine a simple moment. One evening, two families hear the same sound. The water heater has failed. Cold water, no warning. One family immediately reaches for a credit card. They start calculating, how much will this cost? Can we afford it right now? What will we have to delay or cut back on? The other family quietly opens their emergency savings account. They call for a repair, approve the cost, and move on with their evening. By bedtime, both families have hot water again. Same problem, same outcome. But only one goes to sleep worrying about the bill. The difference wasn't income, it was preparation. That's why an emergency fund is more than a financial tool, it's emotional protection. It allows you to make decisions without panic, to solve problems without creating new ones, and to sleep well even when life becomes uncertain. Quietly wealthy people understand something many others overlook. Money isn't only meant to help you enjoy good times. It's also there to protect you during difficult ones, and the stronger that protection becomes, the more confident you become about the future. That's the quiet strength behind the next Japanese habit, thinking about money not just for today, but for the generations that come after you. The sixth Japanese money habit is one of the most powerful. They often think beyond their own lifetime. In many families, money isn't viewed as something to spend as quickly as possible. It's something to protect, grow, and eventually pass on. That doesn't always mean leaving behind a large fortune. Sometimes it means leaving behind good financial habits. There's a quiet moment that captures this idea perfectly. A father sits with his young daughter at the kitchen table. He hands her a small envelope. Inside is the money she saved over the past year. She looks at it, excited, already imagining what she could buy. But instead of telling her what to do, he asks a simple question. What do you think your future self would want you to do with this? She pauses, and in that pause, something important begins to form. Not just a decision about money, but a way of thinking about it. Teaching children to save before they spend. Showing them how to avoid unnecessary debt. Helping them understand the difference between wants and needs. Those lessons can be worth far more than any inheritance. Think about two families. One teaches the next generation how to earn money. The other teaches them how to manage it. Both lessons matter, but only one helps wealth survive. That's why many Japanese families place so much value on financial responsibility. They understand that wealth isn't built in one lifetime alone. It's strengthened when each generation avoids repeating the mistakes of the last. That way of thinking changes everyday decisions. People become less interested in short-term rewards. They become more interested in long-term stability. Before making a financial decision, they often think, will this help my family tomorrow or only make me happy today? That's a very different question, and it often leads to very different choices, because real wealth isn't just about what you you leave behind. It's about what you teach before you're gone. Money can disappear surprisingly fast. Good habits often don't. And those habits can continue creating financial security long after the money itself has been spent. That's why quietly wealthy people focus on more than building assets. They build values. Because when strong values are passed from one generation to the next, wealth has a much better chance of lasting. The next Japanese habit may be the simplest of them all, but it quietly protects every other habit we've discussed so far. The seventh Japanese money habit is surprisingly simple. They take care of what they already own. In many parts of the world, replacing things has become normal. A phone slows down, buy a new one. Furniture starts looking old, replace it. A small appliance breaks, throw it away. The Japanese mindset often takes a different approach. Before replacing something, many people first ask, can it be repaired? It's a habit that reflects something much deeper than saving money. It reflects respect for the value of what you already have. Imagine an old leather wallet. The edges are worn, the stitching has loosened slightly. Instead of replacing it, its owner takes it to be repaired. The leather is conditioned, the seams are reinforced. Years pass. The wallet softens with age, carrying not just cash, but memories. 10 years later, it's still in use. Not because it couldn't be replaced, but because it was cared for. When you care for your belongings, they usually last longer. And when they last longer, you spend less replacing them. That may not sound exciting, but over 20 or 30 years, it can save an enormous amount of money. Think about someone who replaces a perfectly usable car every 5 years simply because a newer model came out. Now compare that to someone who maintains the same reliable car for 15 years. Neither person is making headlines, but one is quietly keeping thousands of dollars working for their future instead of constantly paying for depreciation. That's the hidden power of maintenance. It protects both your possessions and your finances. Quietly wealthy people understand that replacing something should be the last option, not the first. Because every item you don't need to replace is money that can stay invested, stay saved, or simply stay available for life's unexpected moments. This habit also changes the way people shop. Instead of asking what's the cheapest option, they ask what's the option that will serve me well for the longest time. That's a completely different mindset, and over a lifetime, it often leads to spending less while owning better things. Sometimes the smartest financial decision isn't buying something new. It's taking better care of what you already have. The eighth Japanese money habit has nothing to do with earning more. It has everything to do with avoiding waste. In Japan, there's a simple idea that has shaped everyday life for generations. Don't waste what still has value. That applies to food, time, energy, and money. At first, saving a few dollars here and there doesn't seem like it matters. Skipping unnecessary purchases, using what you already have, finishing what you buy instead of replacing it early. Each decision feels small, almost insignificant. Picture this. You open your closet and see clothes you barely remember buying. Some still have tags. Others were worn once and forgotten. In the kitchen, there's food in the back of the fridge that's already gone bad. Subscriptions quietly renew in the background for things you haven't used in months. None of them felt expensive when they happened. That's why they were so easy to ignore. Nothing feels like a big mistake, just small, harmless decisions. But together they tell a different story. But that's exactly how quiet wealth is built, not through one life-changing decision. Through thousands of ordinary ones. Imagine two people. One saves just a small amount every day by avoiding unnecessary spending. The other spends a little extra without thinking much about it. Neither notices a difference after 1 week, or even 1 month. But 10 years later, the gap between them can be enormous, not because one earned dramatically more, because one wasted far less. That's the power of consistency. Quietly wealthy people understand that money leaks away in small amounts. A forgotten subscription, food that's thrown away, impulse purchases that are barely used, none of them seem important on their own. Together, they quietly slow down financial progress. That's why they pay attention to the little things. Not because they're obsessed with every dollar, because they understand that every dollar has a job. It can disappear without creating value, or it can quietly strengthen your future. When enough small decisions point in the same direction, they eventually create results that look extraordinary. The next Japanese habit builds on this idea by focusing on something even more valuable than money itself. yourself, time. The ninth Japanese money habit is about protecting something that can never be replaced. Your time. Most people think of time and money as two separate things. The Japanese mindset often treats them as partners. Before spending money, many people also think about the time connected to that purchase, not just the time it takes to earn the money, but the time it takes to maintain, clean, repair, store, and worry about the things they own. Instead of explaining this right away, picture a simple scene, a quiet Saturday morning. One person is outside, mowing a large lawn, fixing small issues around the house, organizing a garage filled with things they rarely use. Hours pass by. The time everything is finished, the sun is already beginning to set. The weekend somehow feels over before it ever really began. Now picture someone else. They wake up slowly, have breakfast with family, take a walk, read a book, or simply sit and enjoy the calm. Same day. Very different experience. One owned more things, the other owned more time, because every possession comes with hidden responsibilities. A bigger house takes more time. A more expensive car demands more attention, more belongings, create more decisions, more organizing, more stress. Quietly wealthy people understand that owning more isn't always living better. Sometimes owning less creates a richer life. Imagine two people. One spends every weekend maintaining things they rarely use. The other spends those same weekends with family, traveling, reading, or simply relaxing. Both may have similar incomes, but only one feels like they truly own their time. That's why many Japanese families value simplicity, not because they dislike nice things, because they understand that every unnecessary possession quietly asks for your attention, and attention is one of the most valuable things you have. Money lost today can be earned again. Time cannot. That's why the wealthiest people aren't always those with the largest bank accounts. They're often the ones who have the freedom to spend their days the way they choose. When you begin protecting your time as carefully as your money, something remarkable happens. You stop buying things that complicate your life, and you start investing in experiences that actually improve it. That's a quiet form of wealth that no price tag can ever fully measure. The 10th and final Japanese money habit brings all the others together. They understand that wealth is built quietly, not dramatically, not overnight, and almost never in the way social media makes it seem. Imagine opening an old notebook. Inside are handwritten budgets from 30 years ago, small notes in the margins. Skipped eating out this week, saved an extra $50, car repair paid from savings. At the time, none of those decisions felt important. Page by page, they looked ordinary, but looking back, they tell the story of a life that quietly became financially secure. None of those pages looked extraordinary on their own. That's how wealth is usually built. Not through one unforgettable moment, through thousands that seemed forgettable at the time. Today, we're constantly surrounded by stories of people getting rich fast. The perfect investment, the overnight business success, the lucky trade. Those stories attract attention because they're exciting, but lasting wealth is usually much less exciting. It's built through habits that are repeated for decades, saving consistently, avoiding unnecessary debt, living below your means, taking care of what you own, thinking before you spend, preparing for difficult times. None of those habits will make headlines, but together they steadily create something extraordinary: financial security. Think about planting a tree. For years, it doesn't seem to change very much. Then one day you look at it and realize how much it has grown. Wealth often works the same way. Most of the progress is invisible while it's happening. That's why so many people give up too early. They're looking for quick results instead of lasting ones. Japanese families often trust the process. They don't expect every financial decision to change their life overnight. They simply expect each good decision to make tomorrow a little stronger than today. Year after year, those small improvements begin to compound, and eventually what once looked ordinary becomes remarkable. That's the quiet secret behind lasting wealth. Not one brilliant decision, thousands of wise ones. Once you understand that, you stop chasing shortcuts. You start building something much more valuable, a financial life that grows stronger, calmer, and more secure with every passing year. Because the greatest wealth is rarely created in moments of excitement. It's created in moments of consistency. Now take a step back and look at all 10 habits together. None of them promised to make you rich by next year. None of them required a perfect investment. None of them depended on earning an extraordinary income. That's exactly the point. Most people believe wealth begins with a bigger paycheck. These habits suggest suggest something different. Wealth begins with thousands of small decisions made consistently. The Japanese approach isn't built around chasing more. It's built around wasting less wasted money, less wasted time, less wasted energy, less wasted attention. Because every dollar you don't waste becomes another dollar working for your future. Every unnecessary purchase you avoid creates more financial breathing room. Every patient decision strengthens the next one. That's why these habits work so well together. One habit protects your savings, another protects your time, another protects your peace of mind. Together, they create a financial life that becomes stronger year after year. The interesting part is that none of these habits look impressive while you're living them. Your neighbors may never notice. Your friends may never compliment your decisions. Social media probably won't celebrate your patience, but your future self will. Imagine waking up 20 years from now, you make coffee, the bills are already paid, an unexpected expense no longer ruins your week. You don't feel rich. You feel calm. And that's a very different kind of wealth. One day you'll realize you're not constantly worrying about unexpected bills. You're not losing sleep over money. You're not wondering whether you'll have enough. That's when you'll understand something many people discover too late. The greatest reward of quiet wealth isn't having more than everyone else. It's needing less to feel secure. Because once financial peace replaces financial pressure, money stops being a daily source of stress. It simply becomes a tool that quietly supports the life you actually want to live. Before you move on with your day, I'd like to leave you with a simple challenge. Don't try to adopt all 10 habits at once. You don't need to. In fact, that's how many people fail. They try to change everything overnight, then give up when life gets busy. Instead, choose just one habit that feels realistic, one habit you could still be practicing a year from now. Maybe it's living below your means after your next raise. Maybe it's waiting a week before making a major purchase. Maybe it's building a stronger emergency fund. Or maybe it's simply deciding to stop buying things just to impress other people. Start there. Imagine it's next Friday, you're about to buy something you don't really need. For the first time, you pause. You remember the promise you made to yourself, you put it back. It doesn't feel like a life-changing moment. It feels almost too small to matter. But years later, you'll realize that's exactly what it was. Because financial success rarely comes from one big decision. It comes from small decisions repeated consistently. Think about where you'll be 5 years from now. The person you'll become won't be shaped by one lucky investment. It will be shaped by the habits you repeat every week. And that's where hope comes from, because habits are something you can control. The economy isn't, inflation isn't, the stock market isn't, but your daily choices are. Those choices quietly become your future. So ask yourself one final question. If your financial habits stayed exactly the same for the next 10 years, would you be happy with where they lead? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, today is a great day to make one small change, because you don't need a completely different life to become wealthier. Sometimes you just need a few better habits repeated long enough for the results to become impossible to ignore. If there's one lesson I hope stays with you after this video, it's this. Quiet wealth isn't built by trying to look successful. It's built by becoming financially stronger, one decision at a time. The world often celebrates people who spend the most, the biggest homes, the newest cars, the most luxurious vacations, but those things don't always tell the real story. Real wealth is often invisible. It's the family that sleeps peacefully because they're prepared for unexpected expenses. It's the retiree who doesn't worry every time the market falls. It's the person who can help a loved one without creating financial stress for themselves. Those victories rarely attract attention, but they're the ones that truly matter. Imagine an ordinary evening years from now. The house is quiet, dinner is finished, the bills are paid. No one is talking about money because no one has to. There's laughter in the next room, and for a moment you realize something. This quiet life is exactly what you spent years building. That's why the Japanese approach feels so refreshing. It reminds us that money isn't a competition, it's a tool that creates security, freedom, choices, and peace of mind. Years from now, people probably won't remember what car you drove or what phone you owned or what brand of clothes you wore, but you'll remember how it felt to live without constant financial pressure. You'll remember having enough savings, enough freedom, enough confidence to face the future without fear, because that's the quiet reward these habits create. Not a life that looks richer from the outside, a life that feels richer from the inside. And in the end, that's the kind of wealth that lasts the longest, because real wealth doesn't need to be announced. It simply gives you the freedom to live life on your own terms. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these Japanese money habits are you going to start this week? Will it be living below your means, waiting before making a purchase, preparing for the unexpected, or embracing the idea that real wealth is often invisible? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely enjoy hearing sharing which one you think will make the biggest difference in your life. If you enjoy videos that explore timeless money habits, smarter financial decisions, retirement planning, and building lasting wealth, consider subscribing. Every week, we share practical ideas designed to help you reduce financial stress, make better money decisions, and create a more secure future, one step at a time. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people who matter most to you, and remember, the people who become quietly wealthy usually aren't chasing attention. They're quietly building a life they never have to escape from. It's one decision at a time. Maybe one day you'll wake up, pour yourself a cup of coffee, look around your home, and realize you're no longer chasing the next thing. You're simply grateful for the life you've quietly built. I'll see you in the next video.